Hello, everyone. I'm here today with a very special guest. Thank you for coming, Michael. Michael is the CEO of MentorFit. He's coming from Toronto, Ontario. Appreciate you coming down.
Thank you very much for having me, David. It's good to be here in Scelta's headquarters, Windsor, Ontario. And after a long flight and a couple hours sleep, I hope you can go easy on me. For the next hour. But I'm energized. I'm ready to go. We're ready to talk shop.
Yeah. As long as we have our espressos, we're good to go.
Yeah. Here we go.
Yeah. All right. So, Michael, can you tell us a little bit about how MentorFit was born? Where did it come from?
Right. So, MentorFit came from marrying my background in politics and really newfound passion for entrepreneurship. And so within politics specifically, I was working for the Ontario government and dealing with a lot of economic development policy, labor policy, and that was my expertise within the political world. Dealt with a lot of I would say construction related labor policy, hearing a lot from the skilled trades on the shortages that were in the province and in the country, and a lot of how we need to get more homes for Ontarians, for Canadians, to have affordable living, right? And this is a daily topic in the news there. So I was exposed to that in the government of Ontario, and in 2022 I pursued my MBA at the Ivey Business School, and from there on I just fell into entrepreneurship. And I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad is actually a management consultant. Mom's a nurse. Grandparents were actually in construction, but far from an entrepreneurial family. But my MBA actually led me to this newfound passion of entrepreneurship, and thought that it was the best course of action to take my political background, specifically within labor, economic development, and again, marry that with the MBA and just go for it. And there was MentorFit.
Yeah. Wow. That's a great story. And I think that the experiences that you've had in life, coming from a political background, seeing a lot of the housing crisis, developing your own company, pursuing an MBA, I'm curious, MentorFit seems like it's applicable to multiple industries. Like it's a very valuable tool for hiring in multiple sectors of the market. Why construction? Why pick construction? Obviously, that's our space. We're very passionate about it, but I'm always curious.
No, I love the fact that we're both dabbling in the space. We're both heading into that vertical. I think that within construction specifically, there is number one, a great need for talent solutions, specifically around talent acquisition and interviewing and hiring, but also it's just the volumes of hiring that's being done in the construction industry. It's pretty amazing. I think right now we're looking at 1.6 million Canadians within the workforce, within the construction workforce, and that represents about 10% of the national workforce. So just high volume, but also high need in terms of hiring solutions with turnover and et cetera. Again, we can look into trucking. We're looking into trucking. We're looking into manufacturing and even agriculture too. But really, once we too found our vertical, we had people saying that we need your tool right away, and that was really how we got into it.
Yeah, we talk a lot about having a focus at the company, right? Even here at Scelta, we expanded into manufacturing and greenhouse early on, and then we went back to construction where we initially started the company. And then expanded and allowed ourselves to onboard a few manufacturing companies along with our construction companies. How important is it to hone in on one industry first, get to know that industry before expanding outward?
Yeah, David, I mean, You're someone I would ask this question to, and I know that you've given me some very good wisdom around here. So I would say that really focusing on one customer first and building something that they love
Yeah.
and that they need is entirely important. The old saying goes, build something for a few people who love your product versus many people who kind of like your product. Focusing in not only allows you to build a strong customer base, but also can allow you to be a domain expert.
Yeah.
And then you can again branch out for there. It's just about, doing reps, doing calls, understanding the customer, understanding your vertical, having that validation as a, unproven vendor as well is super important. And I know that you could definitely speak to that.
Yeah. You and I talk a lot about doing things that don't scale. So I initially learned it from Brian Chesky, founder of Airbnb. And he talks a lot about if you can master the experience for one client in one sector of the market, that's far more valuable than trying to go out to the majority and try to offer them a subpar product, right? So it's kind of the opposite thinking of when you first start, don't scale. Do things that don't scale. Go out to that first customer, ask them how you can improve your product. How can you add a new feature that might make their user experience better? We found a lot of success in that in our boots on the ground mentality. So we find a ton of value in going to the construction sites, sitting on the back of pickup trucks and understanding how our users are interacting with the app. Because it's one thing to have a very strong application that you understand and you think you've worked so much on it, right? Your team has put so much effort into building this tool. It's got to be, this is the product. This is what we think is the solution. When in reality, you get majority of your answers from the users themselves and the majority of your features. So starting MentorFit, what are some of the practices that you guys are starting to engage in with your users? Are you visiting users? Are you going to their offices, to construction sites?
Yeah, David, completely on point with getting out of the four walls that's the office. I mean, if you're doing a Zoom call, you're doing a virtual call, that counts. But really getting out there and talking to your users, but not only talking to, but I think aggressively getting out there and having them use your product, having them test it out and demo it is completely important. And I know that for me, I've made every mistake in the book starting out, but also as another old saying goes, is that learning is the unit of measurement for startups. And you can't go out there without failing for the first time. You can't go out there without, having to get back up after a couple punches. So what we did was actually what we're doing now is actually understanding searching for business models versus executing solutions. And there's another great piece of literature at Steve Blank, Search versus Execute. And really the concept goes, look for a problem within a business model, in a pre-existing business model, versus going out there very idealistically. And I know that it's very motivating to do so. And I know people have visions, and yes, chase your vision. But if there's not that business case behind it, then that's difficult. So let's talk about that in real world, in our market problem. Right now is that we are looking at reducing turnover at construction companies. We want to assure that workers coming through the talent acquisition pipeline of construction companies will perform on the job. And within all of that are other guarantees that we want you to streamline your process to make it faster. Right. And that all has dollars tied to it, right? When it comes to turnover, you're in the construction industry, talking to our customers, looking at $5,000 to $10,000 per bad hire. We call misfit hire. Yeah. And you're looking at the 90 work hours within a team wasted every single misfit hire that happens there. So once you start uncovering these problems that exist in a business model, then you can go and do your solution engineering. Then you can go and think about the solution. But so important to do the things that. So first of all, search for the business model, and then go and do things that don't scale, finding out where you could insert into a company's, in B2B, where insert into a company's problem and really deliver some value.
Yeah. And when building a product, one thing that we always practice is ask ourselves the question, what pain point are we solving? What challenge, by building this tool or this solution or this platform or this dashboard, what pain point are we solving? So my question to you is, when you're going out and introducing MentorFit to owners, talking about the traditional process, what does the traditional process of hiring look like right now? And why is it so difficult to hire the right talent?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna blame resumes a lot for this one. We think that resumes can suck, not only for hiring managers to go through, but also for candidates to write. And if you've never had practice writing a resume, then it's really hard to do that. We're also looking at the ability to use a resume as a screening tool for candidates as well. I think it's part of it is an exclusionary process. I think that there's a lot more that just a plain piece of paper resume. There's a lot more behind a candidate. I really believe that. And the actual act of going through and interviewing can be a massive pain for hiring managers. It's a very time intensive process. Often resume parsers don't do the best job. They actually don't work if the candidate's resume doesn't actually reflect their profile. So you can see I'm not trying to get worked up about this right now, but that's just resumes. Let's not even talk about assessment systems and qualification systems and how you credential candidates, especially within open shops and non-unionized construction companies. So really what we found that we can provide the most value to companies was in the qualification and credentialing of candidates. And if we can take a candidate's detailed profile and use that profile from interviews and use that for smarter hiring decisions for companies, then we can deliver the most value. And hiring managers get excited about that. Really, we call it retention assurance. And we want to make sure that the candidates coming through have that MentorFit stamp of approval on them as they go through.
So my question next, which I'm going to tell you a bit of a personal story of how I got my first construction job. So I really wanted to work at this particular general contractor in the city who was doing very cool projects, building condos, building hotels. I knew the owner at the time, just, from reputation, and I really wanted that to be my employer and, more importantly, my mentor, because I knew that, I wanted to emulate a lot of the skills that he had. So when I first introduced myself, I drove to the office, drove to the company, and I asked if I could essentially work as an intern, an unpaid intern, just so that I could have a month or so to prove myself. Because my resume, my brother and I, Berto, who we cleaned windows in high school. We did a lot of cool things. We were kind of starting our own gig with just a few ladders strapped to the back of our truck, and that was great, but I didn't have any construction experience. And I really wanted to get into construction. So I was thinking, how can I differentiate myself? So I actually offered up and I said, I'm happy to work unpaid just to show you my skill set over a 1 to 2 month period. And by doing so and showing up every day and with the willingness to learn and the willingness to research on my own and understand the construction industry better, that then allowed me to get a full-time gig that I wasn't expecting when I first approached the company. So what are sort of the activities that you as MentorFit do to go beyond the resume? How can you go beyond the resume?
I love that story. I think that it shows your entrepreneurial spirit and just your go-get attitude. But I think that really to go beyond the resume is to actually allow a candidate to have a self-discovery process where you're asking more than why are you interested in this job? That's the status quo right now, is why are you interested in this job? And I mean, if a candidate's going to say money, I can understand and I can sympathize, but that's again not a good enough answer when for example, as an unpaid intern, you're showing up at the door of a company and saying that you want to work for this company because of X, Y, Z reason. But here are a couple problems with resumes right now. That, as I mentioned before, they don't have a detailed profile of a person's lived experience, right? They don't capture that. If you're someone who doesn't have job experience, right? You just have blanks in your resume. You just have just white space in your resume. And the third is that a lot of people, newcomers to Canada, they don't have Canadian experience. And there's a bit of a riff right now on employers and newcomers to Canada on this Canadian experience title. And it's hard for people, right? Because you can't get a job unless you have the Canadian experience, and it's a blocker. So what we want to do is create these detailed candidate profiles that really bring out other qualities. And you mentioned willingness to succeed and motivation. My grandfather is something like a 75-year member of the United Association Local 46 in Toronto as a plumber steam fitter. And, he serves as an advisor to me, and he says, if you have the touch, so if you can use the tool well and you have the willingness to succeed, then you got it. And that's really where we started to look at what qualities make for a good worker. So if we can go and tap into those qualities within people through selection systems, through rapid skills assessment, which we're doing right now, but also through a self-discovery process that we've put together with industrial psychologists, and we've put it into our interview package, our package of interview questions. Then we can bring out those qualities that go past a resume, and we can really discover a person for who they are, and find diamonds in the rough.
Well, I love the story of your grandfather too, and being a mentor to you. I find there's a lot of those construction contractor veterans out there, and their knowledge is carried with them. And it'd be so great if their knowledge can be shared with up and coming contractors, up and coming tradesmen, because they may not be professors, but they have a wealth of world and life experience in the trade. I can speak from experience at Scelta. We put out a posting for a summer intern. We were going to hire 2 positions. We ended up hiring 3, but I'll tell you why. So we had over 200 resumes in less than a week. So we made a post online, and a credit to our director of marketing, Avery. He's done a great job of branding the company and giving real life testimonials and experiences and capturing. So when a potential hire looks at our company and they can actually see what we do day to day and how we interact with customers and how they react to our software platforms. So I feel like that played a very integral role in gaining that number of candidates. So when we sat down as a company, we said, okay, we got 200 resumes to look at. What's the best way to go about this? So we did use some AI tools to vet a few resumes, and that was good. That helped us skim it down. But then we wanted to take it a step further. We're like, okay, as soon as these interns are hired, we need to get them up and running, because we only have 4 months with them, right? That's a short time frame to really invest in someone to understand your company. So we actually put out a challenge. So there's this portal that we've been working on as a company, and we were very curious if we put out a scope of work, sort of a small project, to these 200, or we broke it down to 50 applicants, but these 50 applicants, and said, okay, you've got 3 days to put together a wireframe of how you would go about building this app. And we sent out this application, it was on a Friday, and I got all the submissions back Monday morning. And it was like, if I were to build this software platform for Scelta, I would go about it this way, and I would design it this way. We actually ended up picking top 3 candidates who built brilliant wireframes. Beautiful design, functionality, building inspections, safety permits, engineering reports. Like the detail was incredible. We were thoroughly impressed. I actually showed it to all of our software engineers, and they said, for someone to put this together in 3 days, it's incredibly impressive. So we ended up hiring the top 3 submissions. So the top 3 submissions, and the nice thing was when they start, they're actually starting next Monday, that's the project they're working on.
Oh, wow.
So when they start working at Scelta, what you've already prepared for is the project that you're going to continue forward with. So we found that activity to be highly beneficial for us because we could see the work ethic, we could see the way they go about thinking about things, and we kept the scope slightly broad because we wanted to leave room for personal creativity and freedom.
Yeah.
But that was one of the best moves that we made in terms of hiring.
You know, I love the fact that you guys are not only looking at forward thinking for the construction and design industry, but also with your internal hiring, within your internal processes. I mean, gamified assessments is something that everybody can get behind. Yeah. Right. And what better than you are building up? I mean, you're building up the candidate in the interview process. Yeah. Right. And what about the 197 candidates who didn't get the role? They have things that they can put in their portfolio, in their GitHub, in wherever, right? In their Figma portfolio. So they walk away with something, right? And I would say that if I could see where we would want to go is gamified assessments as well, not just from selection systems and rapid skills assessment, but these challenges. It's great, right? It's somebody everybody can get behind. Now, I wanted to ask, when you went and did that, was there a time to hire? Was there a deadline, and was it like a race against the clock, or did you guys do this over a long period of time? Because time to hire is a very important metric in construction.
Well, I'll be honest, the movie Social Network, the story about Facebook, I actually remembered the scene where they had the coding competition, if you remember, in one of the university halls, where they had the few coders and Mark Zuckerberg's character was standing there. And I remember him looking at the computer screen and being like, welcome to Facebook. And I thought that was super cool. Yeah. And I was like, to a lesser scale as a startup, I was like, I want to try to emulate that experience. Because I thought it was brilliant to see how that worked and how excited the coders were. So in terms of timeline, I actually had a few candidates reach out to me and say, hey, what's the deadline for this? So I actually responded with, there is no deadline. I'm curious to see how quickly the candidates are going to submit and how much, because I sent it out on a Friday and it was a holiday this past Monday, Victoria Day. So I wasn't expecting many people to submit on the holiday, but we actually ended up getting a number of submissions on the holiday. And kind of as a psychological test, I was curious to see who was going to go ahead and work out the weekend and work on the Monday holiday and still submit on Monday. So I actually purposely didn't put a deadline because I was curious to see who was going to take the initiative and go ahead and build it. And we didn't receive everyone's submissions. So that was our method of just seeing people's initiative.
Thinking outside the box for hiring, I really commend you for that. That's excellent. I think companies nowadays, if they can see the other side, and they can put thought and creativity into their hiring process, that's only going to benefit the quality of the workforce that's going to come in to succeed as managers, to come in and love going to work every single day, right? This is where we want to go. But also the fact that the volume of candidates that you got for that submission, I think really speaks to, I mean, not only it's a competitive job market right now, but the quality of individuals, especially within software within Ontario and Canada. And I think that we're finding some really bright, I'm only assuming like mid-20s, early 20s, students or graduates, I would say, and folks just starting their career, coming in and doing these submissions. It just speaks volumes to the tech talent that we have here in Ontario. Yeah,
and I think that it needs to be brought to light that there's actually funding for talented individuals that are in school or post-secondary. So we actually partnered up with the University of Windsor, one of the student success coordinators there. Shout out to Sandra. She helped us out a ton because she took our job posting and submitted it to all the computer science students and software engineering students. So that's where a majority of the bulk of our resumes came from, was partnering up with a local university and putting out this job posting and getting, high quality candidates. Like we're talking master students, software engineering, undergraduate students, high GPAs. Like, of those applicants, we probably could have picked any of those 50 and we would have been thoroughly impressed with their capabilities. Mm-hmm. So one also thing that we learned, and we were very, we didn't know about this, it was brought to light to us, was actually the funding for students as well. So there's programs out there that will pay between 50 and 70% of your summer wages. Mm-hmm. So depending on the T4s that you submit at the end for your employees, the government will actually pay you back to hire those students. So there are incentives out there. Mm-hmm. And we actually tell a lot of our contractor companies, there's another wage subsidy for if you hire post-secondary students to go into construction companies as well, right, if you hire them from trade schools. Yeah. So I think in addition to the applicants and MentorFit, but also what access do I have to grant funding? Yeah. And is that something that you guys have been exploring as well?
Yeah, I think every startup out there needs to leverage the grant funding. Yeah, that's available to them. There's for upskilling within the construction and manufacturing, really the blue collar world. There's $1 billion out there just in Ontario. Yeah. To upskill people, and the Ontario government is doing a great job for earmarking money for that from the budget. And I would also say that we're also looking at grant funding from universities as well. So that ties right into the quality of talent that you're having through your hiring process, but also the quality of talent that's coming from Canadian universities. Mm-hmm. And we actually have a grant in right now with Western University. Nice. And so we're working with them, and we'll share a little bit more as things progress. But very excited to be with so shout out Western. If you gave yourself a Windsor shout, I'm going to give myself a Western shout out Windsor for Western for all the great talented people coming out of that school. And I would say it not only that Canadian companies should be taking advantage of these grants that are out, but we're seeing American companies and European companies that I'm talking to personally that are looking to get into Canada and Ontario to take advantage of some of these grants. And that's one of the things that we are doing well in our tech sphere, but also that we need to keep pushing on and helping out our tech companies to grow and to be supported by the government.
Now, these grants, they benefit a younger age category. Is that correct? Or these grants, there's no age limit? Like someone in their late 40s or 50s, if they're still looking to make a career change or career pivot, are these grants, are this funding, is it available to different age categories?
I would say at tech companies, less so, but in terms of manufacturing companies and larger companies, there's something for everyone. Yeah. And it's out there. Getting yourself really acquainted through getting acquainted with the grants that are out there, or finding a good grant writer that will be able to help you out is something that I'd recommend for every startup. Really have to get dialed into what's happening right now. The recent announcement too, and there haven't been too many details about it, but even the AI funding that's coming out for with the government of Canada, the recent budget. And having a finger on the pulse on the money coming out, it's for companies, it's for early stage startups, and they should be taking advantage of it.
So I think we can both agree there's an incredible need for hiring. Now, for those that are listening, can you walk me through using MentorFit, what the user experience is like? If I'm a contractor and I'd like to start using MentorFit, what does it look like? How do I sign up? How do I open an account?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking for partners right now to have our tool help them improve their retention for their workforce, the job performance of their candidates, and to streamline their hiring process. And so what we do is we want to find the best people for the job. And we want to use that using our job fit to role percentage. So when everything that we do behind qualifying and credentialing a candidate starts with a simple hiring manager, a simple process of a hiring manager needing to find laborers, tradesmen for a project.
Yeah.
And they'll give us their candidates to go and screen and interview and select the best ones. So what happens is, let's say we have a talent pool of 50 candidates. We'll text each candidate, we'll arrange a time to interview, we'll take that interview that we have with the candidates, and based on the answers, we have a sorting and selection method to actually find out who can match the needs of the employer. Who is the best, the best fit to role, and then second and third. A lot of like your submissions that you had for your process. So we'll take that short list of candidates and we'll provide it to the hiring manager, and we'll say, this is why we determined that these candidates are the best fit to role. And the beauty of it all is that we don't even use resumes.
Yeah.
We will just completely use an interview process in order to, in our custom tailored interview process, in order to find those candidates. And after that, we can qualify and credential existing candidates at companies as well. And really what we try to focus on is a employer-centric recruitment process in terms of value, but the experience being candidate-centric. We want to make sure that the candidates are getting a lot out of this too, which is, one is they actually have a career profile. I didn't mention that they have a career profile created within our tool. They have a resume generated, actual career profile resume generated there, which is a lot different than a traditional one. And anybody who's interested, I would love to show them how we do that. And lastly, it's a complete self-discovery process using best techniques with industrial psychologists. So within all that, we are trying to have candidates find the best candidates, find companies find the best candidates, find the needle in the haystack. That's what we're all about.
Okay. And if I don't have a hiring manager, if I'm a contracting company who doesn't have, say, the budget to hire a hiring manager, how can I go about using the tool?
Yeah, there's a lot of different avenues that we could go through right now. So if you are using Indeed, for example, we could take your candidates from Indeed. Or if you have an internal company website, we could take your candidates in your pipeline through your internal website, and even do the talent acquisition process for you, the sourcing process for you as well. We're trying to deliver the most value that we can for owners, operators, or again, if a company does have a hiring manager who are just so busy with what's going on right now, with managing their projects, we want to take the hassle out of their interviewing. We want to take their hassle out of their talent acquisition process. So we're fully automated on the hiring side, on the interview side, and really want to give that time back to the hiring managers or owner operators if they're doing the hiring themselves. Or we also want to make sure that the best candidates are coming through, because onboarding is expensive and hiring is expensive. So we want to put more money back into companies' pockets.
Because time is money, what does timeline look like for your process to take place?
Right. As soon as we have candidates within our tool, the hiring manager provides candidates within our tool, we can interview them as soon as they're available. And we can start getting a snapshot into their candidate company's candidate pool as soon as candidates start interviewing with us. And within our process, we can either have a entire campaign, for example. So it could be 48 hours, it could be 72 hours, it could be a week of allowing interviews to come in, or we could do it on a rolling basis as well. So as candidates come through, we can provide you with the best fit to role candidate just based on interviews on a rolling basis. A smaller batch size, we'll say, to use logistic terms. really wanted to tailor that solution to the industry. So we use SMS, for example. We can plug into, for example, if you use Indeed, we can go and plug into your process there, and really have it as seamless as we can for our customers.
And as a contractor owner or construction company owner, how can I expect to receive those candidates? What does it look like to me? Do I have a portal? Do I get a PDF? How does it look?
Right now, we're working directly with hiring managers.
Yeah.
And what we'll do is we'll actually provide our 30-point assessment system, and we'll show hiring managers how each candidate scored on our assessment system, and from there we'll have it's a very service-based delivery. Right now, what we're doing for hiring managers, we'll work with them, shoulder to shoulder on actually vetting and selecting their best candidates. So we're very client facing right now. We're very customer facing right now, as opposed to dashboards and bells and whistles and different product features. If we're trying to have if we're really trying to dial into our vertical and in our niche, I think that the best way forward right now is to have that face-to-face delivery.
Yeah. So at Scelta, we always like to see where the company's baseline is when we first meet them, right? So when we first start engaging and installing our platforms into their company, we like to set a baseline. Okay, so when you met us, before you started with us, you were here. Your revenue was here, your gross profit margin was here, your employee productivity was here. This is your average project size. This is the average number of leads you're getting per month. We track a number of metrics. And then as the companies start using our application, each month we'll do a health check to see how you've been improving using our platform. So we like to send monthly updates on their dashboard, and the companies can actually see them in real time being uploaded onto their screen. So this month you are X number more profitable than you were last month. Your employee productivity score has increased. So you mentioned upon hiring, you can also see how the productivity and how the performance of that hire is going. So how do you go about measuring the post-hire productivity and performance?
Excellent question. So we find that it's key to keep in touch with our customers post-hire, because we need to be checking in to see if we have a successful candidate that landed, right? That's our entire value proposition. So much like a recruiter would, we would have the check-ins with our client and keep that relationship going. So what we do is we actually check in with the candidate and the hiring manager to assess the performance, to see if the candidate is retained as we're going along. And typically we want to see that candidate last 90 days. We want to make sure that candidate can be retained for 3 months. It's important that those onboarding costs and the hiring costs and the time spent interviewing and for our assessments itself, that there is an ROI, that there is money being saved on the hiring costs for a company, because right now if you're looking at industry standard, I'd say a couple months ago, something on open shops, non-unionized companies, 50 to 70% turnover. Some companies are as low as 25%. But within our onboarding process for a customer, we'll ask, how many candidates are being retained right now. We'll look at how we can also tailor our interview process and our selection system for the needs of the customer as well. We find that there is industry standard hiring practices for laborers, for example, or carpenters, but there are specific needs that companies have, that specific trades have, and specific roles have. So we want to make sure all of that's captured. But tying it all back to what you said about determining metrics is key. You have to put a stake in the sand, and you have to figure out, what does your hiring process look like right now? Tell us about it. We're here to help you. Here's where we want you to get to. And I find, like, I wanted to ask you with your clients, in terms of the check-ins, how is that data being used, and where's that value there, and how is Scelta, but also how can HR companies like MentorFit really capture that hiring data and have hiring managers make better decisions with that data?
So every time we build a platform at Scelta, we interview the key stakeholders. So whether it be the owner, the president, vice president, the site supervisor, the HR, accounting manager, and we get to understand what are the most important key metrics that you want to know on a month-to-month basis, a day-to-day basis, a week-to-week basis. So we actually build a set of dashboards. So each key stakeholder in the company will have their own iteration of a dashboard. And then every input that goes into the application, whether it be clocking in and clocking out, expenses coming in, change orders, schedule changes, they're always updating the dashboards on a real-time basis. So we ask the owner, per se, what is most important to you? What do you want to know about your company to feel the confidence and security that your company is operating optimally? And they'll give us, okay, I'd like to know, what my project value size is, how much outstanding billing I have, how many hours I've worked on certain projects, what is my gross profit margin on each individual project, how many issues have we tracked this month and resolved, how many are outstanding to be resolved. So each of our dashboards is slightly different based on the owner's or key stakeholders' metrics of choice. And that's a big value prop of our company, is giving them the choice. So if you were to look at all 30 companies who currently use Scelta platforms, each owner's dashboard is slightly different. There might be bigger boxes, bigger numbers. There might be less numbers. There might be more pie charts. There might be more bar charts. Some just like seeing numbers. Some like seeing what's in the red, what's in the green, what's profitable. So we tailor the dashboards to the owner's needs. And the nice thing about our platforms is every time that a new shred of data or a new button is clicked or anything like that, it actually feeds the dashboard. So we were actually inspired by Microsoft Power BI and Microsoft Power Automate, which gave us the basis to start building more detailed dashboards. Because our applications take in a lot of data points every single day. And we wanted to be able to display those data points simply. Just what was the easiest way to do that? And the easiest way to do that was a dashboard. It's the easiest to understand. We kind of call it your company scoreboard. Where are you at this month? Where are you at today? Right? So what I'm thinking, the synergy between MentorFit and Scelta is once, let's say one of our contractors start using MentorFit, and that particular hire starts using the Scelta project management software, and they start clocking in their hours, they start putting in expenses of the project, they start submitting daily logs, they start checking off tasks that they've completed. We already have the metrics in place. So if a hire were to work for one of the Scelta companies, those metrics of that particular employee would then be tracked on the dashboard. And you could see who the more profitable employees are, who the more productive employees are. So it really brings to light what's going on, even down to the detail of each employee. So where I see us collaborating in the future is having MentorFit employees start to be hired by Scelta certified smart companies. So that way we can share our dashboard with yourself. So by hiring this MentorFit employee, look how much your productivity is increased by this individual employee. That's really where my head's at right now, and trying to collaborate.
I like where this is going.
Yeah.
I think this is a step in the right direction for both of us. And when it comes to hiring needs, we're like, let's leverage the data. But I would take you up on that offer if it's being offered, and I really think that we could look for a great collaboration on how people can hire better candidates, hire the best candidates for their company.
Yeah, that would be great. But I think you asked me what level of service are we giving to these owners of the company? How frequent are we doing updates of, okay, where's your company at? So in the beginning, I'll say we were with owners almost 2-3 times a week, every week, getting to know them better. But once we had the dashboard and they actually trusted the data, because that's the number one thing too, is building that trust, right? Garbage in is garbage out. So they want to make sure that whatever's being inputted on the app is legit, is a real number, is a real statistic. So once our contractor owners got over that hump and they started to trust the Scelta data, so every time they ran payroll, it's like, yep, numbers are bang on. Then we even got to the point where we're like, you know what? We're actually going to have the individual employees approve that their hours are correct for the week. So we put in an approval system. So if the individual employees see their hours at the end of the week, they can hit, I approve that these hours are correct. That way, every pay stub that comes out is a correct pay stub. There's no more errors involved. So once we built that trust, we actually didn't meet with the owners very often because they were busy. Oftentimes, owner managers are the estimator, they're HR, they're client success, they're working on schedules, they're working on bidding new projects, they're going out and finding new work. They're very busy people. So we're like, what's the easiest way to communicate with them without having to call them or set up a meeting was the dashboard. So sometimes, a lot of our owners will tell us the first thing that they look at when they open their computer in the morning is like, they'll flip it up or they'll look at their desktop or they'll look at their iPhone, whatever it might be, and they'll look at their dashboard and be like, am I in the red? Do I have any issues on the go? And it's kind of like, it's their check at the beginning of each day to make sure I'm on track, I'm on budget, I'm on time, right? So I will say from my own experience, you go from being high touch week after week. But once that's established and you've built a platform that they trust and believe in, so long as the data points are being entered, that touch becomes less and less over time.
And it's to say, and you can tell me if this is true or not, but the reason why Scelta is where it's at today is that high touch, right? Is the reason that you understood your customers so well. Being able to be in their office 3 times a week, like you said, back of the pickup truck, understanding what's happening in the field, but also what's happening face to face with your users. Understanding, being immersed in it is not only understanding your customer well, but also establishing the trust. And the trust that you're delivering a better solution than what they have today. And it takes time. And, for yourself being an industry expert coming into this as, with your background that you have, that was all for the better as well. I think as well, I really like your point about again, doing things that don't scale, I've heard Wizard of Oz in the background as you're building things yourself or, building things as you scale, is super important because, look, we know software. You know about building software. There's churn. And there's a lot to be thrown out sometimes too. And so actually delivering a feature of what the customer is asking for, and that feature is going to be used by 5 other customers behind that one, then you're on the right track for building.
Knock on wood, we have 100% retention rate right now.
Wow.
And keeping the customers who have been with us since the start, to keep them on board. But I also want to tell you, we were in the US as a team the other day, and we were talking to a large manufacturing company, and they have a really strong ERP system. And the benefit of the ERP system is that it manages the business. However, the drawbacks of the ERP system is that not every employee knows how to use it. So when they purchase this large ERP, and from industry knowledge that ERP systems are expensive. Month over month, they're incredibly costly. And the setup fee is incredibly costly. And if you want to hire consultants to come into your office, you're going to be billed heavily for that. So I asked this company and I said, who is trained to use this system? And then a few of the executives raised their hand. I said, and how many of the employees on the floor who are using it every day met with someone from this company? 0. None of the actual people who are inputting the most pertinent data that's going to help the executives make the decisions on the next step forward were ever taught how to use the software. So I think both of us have the advantage, this early movers, early adopters. We're still, small, hungry companies to go and be the boots on the ground. And actually, if you were to ask us, we've gotten up to 500 users, but if you show me any photo of us onboarding a company or a team photo, I would be very confident that I could name everybody's name. And I'm sure majority of the employees in our company could as well. We want to keep it that way. So every time that we onboard a new company, they get a tech implementer tagged to them. So, I'm going to introduce you. I'm David, and I will be your tech implementer. If you have any issues, you contact me directly. You can text me. I've texted contractors late at night, on Sundays, on Saturdays, whenever, just to, help them with their technology. Because to us, it comes, if you're having an issue with a feature, we usually know how to fix it pretty quickly and on demand. So when I was sitting in that meeting in the US and I realized that they're using this software that's expensive and it works. Don't get me wrong, it works. But it's not customized to the company's actual needs, nor has it been implemented properly. So as good as the software is, it'll never be used to its fullest potential. And that's where we found our niche, is that big box softwares will offer you all the features at full price. You're only going to use 30% of them, but you're still paying 100% of the price. Because you're not taught how to use all the features. There's how-to videos, there's FAQs. I remember when I was first onboarded to a large general contracting company, I had to spend 2 months watching tutorial videos on how to use this software. I find it's far more applicable when you actually sit down with someone. If you and I were sitting and we were opening up the screen and I could walk through it with you and watch you use it and then develop it to your needs, you're going to learn it far quicker and you're going to trust it and you're actually going to use it, right? So one thing that I would say, as fellow entrepreneurs, both growing our businesses, is actually building each piece of software that you have with the people who are going to be using the software and going to meet them all by first name. And then as you grow, because you will inevitably grow, you want to try and maintain that same value system that you had from day one, right? And that's our biggest thing. And that's why we're hiring more and more, because we want each company to feel like they have a person tied to them.
Yeah. Eric Rees, if you're listening to this conversation, I hope you're impressed. And that's great. I think that perfectly encapsulated the lean startup methodology there. And I think that what's really important about what you said is knowing the names of all of your onboarding teams that you're implementing the software with. I mean, building that trust alone is fantastic. And I think too is you talk about all the features that could be offered within big box ERPs. It's like your iPhone, right? How much of your iPhone features do you actually use, right? 30%, 40%. I mean, I'm sure that there are people out there that know all the tricks, but again, it's delivering that, delivering the value for what the utility of your software is going to be doing for your customer. And on that, number one, the customer is not buying a bunch of things that they don't need. Right. And you're not building a bunch of things that the customer doesn't need. Right. So it's going to be benefiting everyone. And if you want to tie it back to a scientific method, I bet you could. Yeah. I bet you could. And building things based off evidence. Yeah. And you and I are digital natives. We were born in the digital era. I mean, the year that I was born, Google came online, and we got to recognize that it comes as second nature to you and I to use technology for everything that we do, whether it be making a reservation, ordering food online, booking a flight, calling our friends, FaceTiming, all these things. Like, it's just natural and it's ingrained to us. But our market, I mean, at least in the construction industry, I think you can agree with me that majority of our client base are in that non-digital era. They were born in an era where it was a lot of paper and pen. So you can't expect to deliver them a software platform and expect them to figure it out. Yeah. I mean, if you send it to your fellow colleagues in university and you said, hey, I built this cool new app, I'm sure they could figure it out fairly quick. Your mom too, I'm sure she could tell you it's great. Yeah. You get good feedback from your parents and they'll say it's great. But in reality, this is a true story. One of the biggest hurdles that we face every time we onboard a new app is people remembering their passwords for emails. There you go. There you go. Just as simple as that, right? Is like, okay, because a lot of in order to get into our apps, you need to have a specific email code because part of security reasons for our applications. But one of the biggest hurdles we face is we spend the first half hour just remembering people's passwords and how does forget password work? Do I get sent a 2-factor authentication? Like, you got to realize your audience, right? You got to recognize, and know, all credit to
these people and the way they go about work. Because you look at some of their booklets and their physical sheets, and I look at them, I'm thoroughly impressed. I could not build that detailed of a written sheet if I tried myself.
Yeah.
I mean, my handwriting is nothing to be impressed by, but because I type everything.
Yeah, I was going to pull up 1Password's valuation. I think they had some kind of transaction recently or something like that. But it's right there, right? You have to. This is going back to our conversation at the beginning of this, is really discovering your industry, understanding your vertical, and how they interact with software and technology. Mm-hmm. And if there's a slower adoption, then so be it. You have to build accordingly. I think that within the construction industry, you're looking at fairly low touch products. I think that's key. I couldn't help but think that you open your dashboard. Your customer opens their dashboard in the morning, and the Scelta dashboard comes up. It's like reading the news feed or the newspaper every single morning, right? Something as simple as that is so powerful. Mm-hmm. And by no means is it a knock to the nature of the industry, but it's what it is, right? Mm-hmm. Allow construction companies to do what they do best, designing and building. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And allow us to be the experts in your information and how you leverage your data to make better decisions. Mm-hmm.
What I think would be brilliant for MentorFit is, in addition to the training you're talking about, and I'm not plugging Scelta in any way here, is whatever the company's software stack is mm-hmm. that they're using, if they were able to identify that to MentorFit and say, okay, you're onboarding ABC company, we use this software stack, right? It could be as simple as just Excel and Microsoft Word. That's straightforward. Or it could be like, we use this full-fledged ERP system, we use this full-fledged construction project management system, we use Scelta. And then when you're doing your candidate review, if you were able to plug in during your questionnaire, your 30-point questionnaire, if there was an opportunity to see the software on the screen and be like, if you were to be hired, you would have to learn how to use this software. And if you could develop some 3-point test of, okay, submit a change order, or try and open up your schedule and book time off. Something as simple as that. And not only have you vetted the candidate for their ability, but also their digital ability, mm-hmm. which I think is interesting. Is like, you can have a 2-pronged approach. It's like, what's their worker's ability? What's their ability to complete the tasks at hand? But also, what's their ability to adopt the technology that you have on the construction site? Because I would argue the adoption rate of technology would take longer sometimes than the actual work to be done.
Yeah, powerful stuff. I mean, this goes back to rapid skills assessment and how we can look at how a candidate's going to be on day 1 and on day 90, how they're going to work with these systems, and a lot of it it's credentialing and qualifying. Like, can we validate this candidate mm-hmm. is saying what they claim to be able to do, and that comes down to, let's make sure that companies are getting the right talent, but also make sure that candidates are the right ones for the job. We don't want to give you a job that you're not going to do well in, that you're not going to excel in. And if you are lacking in that, then go and go to training, or go to develop your skills, or get some education around where you want to improve. But around that, like, that's pretty powerful stuff. I think that if you're able to actually have tasks that are being done, whether that's in a virtual environment, or whether that's a conversation around that, or an actual interactive game within an assessment, mm-hmm. that's pretty effective.
Okay, so I'm going to give a shout out to one of our competitors at this moment, because I am quite impressed by this feature that they have, is Procore. So Procore has a number of certifications. So they have a site superintendent certification, they have a project manager certification, they have a foreman certification. Every position in construction you can imagine, they have a certification for. And people go as far as putting these certifications on their LinkedIn. I mean, I even remember when I was applying for construction jobs that I had a few certifications of my own. They're like, week-long modules that you do based on project management, but they teach you more than just how to use the software. They teach you a little bit about project management. So what I'm thinking is if MentorFit had an ability to tie into some of these certifications, like construction management software certifications or training at heights certifications, or WMIS certifications, right? Workplace hazardous industrial safety materials. And then you could plug that into these MentorFit profiles for employers. That'd be a very desirable employee, especially for these larger companies that you're talking to.
Yeah, David, it comes down to skills-based hiring.
Yeah.
Right? And like what we talked about, or what Grandpa even talked about, it's, okay, do you have the willingness to succeed, but do you have the touch?
Yeah.
Right? And if we could deliver a skills ability in each of these different certifications or different tasks to add to our fit to role percentage when we assess a candidate, I mean, there's a lot of power in that too.
Yeah.
And I think as well, what you're able to do is also deliver a better interview process, a more engaging interview process for the candidate. Because as much as we've been talking about value for our customer and after using our tools and platforms, there's something that has to be beneficial for the candidate at the end of this too. That's where we're trying to balance the two sides. So if I know that Skills Ontario is doing a great job of bringing using VR and AR in education for training for even pre-apprenticeship programs. And whether that be operating a forklift or I don't know, welding, for example, that they have as well. But bringing that into hiring would be pretty cohesive, right? You could get into that pretty easily. But definitely want to get that rapid skills assessment to a place where it's more than just answering a question. Especially when we're trying to qualify credential people outside of Canada.
Yeah.
Right. And if we can do a rapid skills assessment, that's better than taking a video of doing a task, or that's better than just answering a question. When it's AR and VR, it's their real time and they're practicing the skill. It's absolutely it'd be powerful stuff. And I think that's where we're trying to get to.
Yeah. And Scelta, as a company, we were really big into the VR and AR space, building out virtual showrooms for homeowners to be able to purchase their homes online, design them online, see the floor plans online so that they could actually feel immersed in their future space. So taking the scaled drawings and the scaled floor plans and turning them into 3D models, taking all the material finishes, taking the upgrades, taking the fixtures, and allowing homeowners to feel immersed in a virtual reality that's very realistic. Now, this brought up a point of mentorship. I want to go back to mentorship. So one very important hiring criteria for general contractors is obviously experience. You usually don't make someone a site supervisor right out of school, right? It's rare for someone to become a project manager right out of school, right? Oftentimes you're an apprentice or you're a project coordinator, or you're a lead hand. You're usually helping out, right? So my question to you, and sort of want you to discuss this, is pairing mentors in the industry to potential candidates. So I found the last construction company that I worked at, a junior or an apprentice would always be paired with a veteran. And I found that was super helpful. And me, myself, I remember being paired with a veteran project manager and some veteran site supervisors, although there was some animosity at the beginning because you're entering a new industry, you're making mistakes.
Of course.
And you don't have time to make those mistakes. But it was so incredibly valuable for me to be paired with a mentor, paired with a site supervisor, to learn what I know now in a shorter period of time. Far more valuable than learning it in school. So is there an opportunity for mentors to be paired with mentees in MentorFit?
Yeah, I mean, it's all in the name, right? It's something that I personally believe in, I think is the best career tool.
Yeah.
I think it's a mentor is going to teach you far more than what you can learn in a classroom. And especially if that mentor is somebody that you work with every single day, as you mentioned, that learning is exponential.
Yeah.
And I think right now, we get the name MentorFit from mentorship, having a deep passion for that, and really promoting the craft of mentorship. I think it's again, most valuable career tool out there. Writing cases on mentorship and fostering a very coachable and fostering an environment where mentorship is in daily processes every single day, and that mentorship pairing is just front and center for a company. I think that is something that all organizations should be looking at. But an opportunity in terms of that, I mean, we talked about building software to suit your vertical. I think that within MentorFit, a future opportunity can be just that, right? If we're identifying a candidate's talents and skills and lived experiences and skills, if I didn't say that already, we can identify skills gaps.
Yeah. And
then we can identify how they can grow in their role with a mentor. I mean, you have master and apprentice.
Yeah.
That's been around for hundreds of years in the trades, right? So taking that and running with it, I think for us would be something that wouldn't only be a passion project for me, but something that would be great for our customers as well, and the employees at our customer companies. But let me tell you this: do you have a mentor yourself?
I do. Yes, I have more of a board of advisors. So I do have a few people that I speak to on a monthly basis. I have one in particular that I speak to nearly every day, who also happens to be my father. A great soundboard for me, and has been an advisor of mine since I started my first custom clothing company in high school, when I started making jean jackets and oversized t-shirts and selling them to my friends.
I'll take one of those.
Yeah, I think you might like one. We used to take like cheese grinders to denim and just kind of rip them up, and it was pretty cool. There's a little article about it in a local newspaper. I'll show you sometime.
We'll check it out.
But yeah, in addition to my father being a great mentor of mine, is also I have another industry expert who actually exited his company in the construction software space, and lived through the experience and lived through getting his first customer and making his first hire and going through the opportunity of, do I seek out funding or not? And he's been an incredible soundboard for me and a lot of the decisions that I've made in terms of pricing, in terms of how to approach potential venture capitalists, in terms of how to scale. And, he's actually introduced me to a number of programs, in particular, which I would recommend maybe you take a look at, is IRAP, is a government funding program. And there's also tax credits for research and development. There are a number of tools out there that I didn't even know about that are available to myself and to other entrepreneurs. But I find incredible value in having a board of advisors. Yeah. And I oftentimes will ask the owners of the companies that we actually build software for. Yeah. Even if they're a client of ours, I have a few in mind, and they know who they are. I will come to them, even though they're a client, they're a paying client, we're working together, but they're 20 years my senior, 30 years my senior, they have successful contracting companies. And I will consistently ask them, like, hey, how is this process going between us? Like, are you enjoying working with Scelta? Is there something I could do better? And some of my best feedback actually comes from the client owners themselves. And it's sort of a natural fit because, you're already talking to each other on a regular basis about the software offering or the service offering you're giving it to them. It's just a natural end of the conversation, end of the phone call, where I say, hey, by the way, how are we doing? How can we be better? How was your experience with my last software engineer? How did this app rollout go? Could we have been better, right? It's incredibly, it's probably, doing it on your own. The common saying, right, is like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Well said.
And I thoroughly believe in that. But I'd like to pose the question to you as well: is, do you have an advisory board? Do you have a particular mentor?
Yeah, really well said there. And I think that within our company, if I didn't have a mentor, I think I'd be living a lie.
Yeah.
So I do. And I have, I like the way you put it, board of advisors. I never thought about it that way, but I do have mentors for all different types of areas where we need to be successful in.
Yeah.
So for example, I have a commercialization mentor.
Yeah.
And I have a 0 to 1 mentor. And I have an HR mentor as well. And within every single piece that MentorFit and where our product needs to be successful, and I've tap the advice of these folks who have been around and who know and understand. And I think that there are a couple things that I want to express with mentorship is that not only does every entrepreneur need a mentor, or every person getting into the trades or our unskilled trades need a mentor, someone to show them the ropes, but also to mentor somebody. And to give back is very important as well. And it's easy to say that you're busy at work.
Yeah.
Everybody's busy at work.
Yeah.
But anybody who doesn't have a mentee right now, you wouldn't believe how much you would learn about yourself if you have a mentee. And if you want to really understand something, you teach it. Mm-hmm. I think that a mentor-mentee relationship, if you are the mentor, you can learn about yourself. You can learn something that you never understood about the person. They can teach you something as well. And understand that one day it's going to come back to you. It's going to be good karma. And you're going to have something that's going to benefit you because you're giving up your time and you're investing in that person. Mm-hmm. So what goes around comes around. Yeah.
I love the way you said that the benefit for the actual mentor, which is something that people don't always talk about. They always talk about how the mentee gets so much benefit from being mentored by someone experienced, but actually learning about yourself as a mentor to a mentee, like you said, the best way to do it is to teach it. And I find there's a lot of satisfaction. Maybe your mentor is a paid mentor and you're paying for weekly sessions or monthly sessions with them, and that's fine. But some mentors, more than dollars and cents is the satisfaction of seeing your mentee thrive through the lessons that you've learned, through the lens the mistakes that you've already made, not making those mistakes again. And I'm going to put a little hack out there that I've practiced myself, is that if I have a large, there's a business owner out there who I look up to and I one day would love to work with. And, my company may not be ready to serve them and their entire company and organization. I will oftentimes reach out to them and just ask them if I could pick their brain, if I could take their expert knowledge and show them what my company has to offer, not with the intention of making a sale, just with the intention of getting feedback. And I found that to be very successful. Is a lot of some of the board advisors that I have, I would love if they were clients of Scelta's one day.
Right. They
may not be today, but they've subscribed to my newsletter. Mm-hmm. They watch what I'm doing. We have monthly calls. We touch base once in a while, right? And just that continual relationship, the benefit that I'm getting from the feedback, but also they get to see your growth journey, and it's that reaffirmation that maybe one day I will give this young guy a shot, right? And I would give that recommendation to other young entrepreneurs out there that, maybe you're not ready to take on this client, but can you ask them for 5 minutes of their time? Yeah.
And what's nuanced is that you are putting in the work to go and build that relationship. I would consider anybody lucky if they were just able to get a mentor right off the bat.
Yeah.
These relationships take work, and don't be afraid to offer something in return. Everybody has something to offer.
Yes.
Whether it's a new grad from university, let's say from a business program with little to no work experience, and you're looking for that star mentor, reaching out to them. Doesn't have to be a celebrity or an industry thought leader. It can be anybody, but it tends to be somebody where you want to be in their shoes in 10 years.
Yeah.
So go and ask them to pick their brain. Go ask them for that coffee.
Yeah.
And also, tactically, if you want if you want that person to be your mentor, try to provide them with a new lesson or a connection or something for them to learn about themselves, because people work through seeing through interest and incentive, as you know, as much as that is to say, but or as direct as that is. I still think that everybody has something to offer. Go and teach them a new skill, a talent. You wouldn't believe how many 60-year-old industry veterans that would love to learn about AI language models. And if you've played around with ChatGPT, show them how to do that.
Right.
If you've how you can make awesome presentations on Canva or on PowerPoint or wherever.
Yeah.
Teach them something, give them something back. They'll thank you for it, and they'll return the favor.
Yeah. And speaking of AI introducing to industry veterans, we were actually in a meeting the other day with a gentleman who was the owner of his company, 69 years old, industry veteran, very successful company, tier 1 automotive. And we spoke to each other, and he told me that AI is not something that he fully understands and grasps, and it's quite scary, actually. It could be detrimental in the future, in the long run, because that's the perception of it. And although there are reservations about AI, and it can be used for wrongdoing, and that's definitely possible. But I remember I sat down with him and I said, let me just show you. It wasn't ChatGPT, it was another recording tool that I use for a lot of my meetings. That it's basically like having an assistant in the room with you that listens to your meetings, and it writes notes for you, and it gives you key takeaways, and it gives you quotes from the meeting that are important to you. So every meeting that I go into, I turn on my AI assistant. And I just asked him, I was like, can I just show you an example of it, right? And I remember putting my phone down on the table. We were sitting across from each other, and I said, let's just talk about something. We ended up talking about we came up with a fabricated project that we were going to talk about. And I was like, okay, let's make details. What date is this project going to happen on? Who's going to send the follow-up? What are the names? And then we recorded it, and I hit stop. And I was like, okay, now we're going to go to the summary and the transcript. And I want you to ask the AI what we talked about. And so I hit the record button, and I said, ask any question you like. And he's like, what was the name of the project, and who is supposed to send the follow-up PDF about the project? And the AI just responded to him perfectly. And then he's like, okay. And how much is the project budget? And it was a very random number, exactly on par. And just seeing this reaction on his face, like, wow.
Yeah, you applied it.
Right.
Yeah. That's cool. That's really cool.
It was a special moment. Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. I mean, you'd have no idea what you can learn from people that you just run into. I think that the way that you should treat every conversation is pretend like the person that you're talking to knows something that you don't.
Yeah. And
to treat every conversation like that, like they're the only person in the room. And you took the time with this gentleman, and he took the time to talk to you, and he learned something that blew his mind. That he was that, and that now he can talk about.
Yeah.
Right. So that's pretty cool. I like that. That's again the fabric of mentorship, really.
Yeah. And in addition to mentorship, I want to talk about your support network as well, because it goes beyond having a mentor, right? It's, your coworkers. I'm sure your co-founder who you speak with every day may not be a mentor to you per se, but is definitely a soundboard, is definitely someone that, can bounce ideas off of, and someone that you can talk to about challenges and triumphs, and even your family. Like I know, talking to my brother, as you know very well, and he's got an incredible mind, and getting his insights on decisions that I need to make, and even talking to my girlfriend, whether it be venting about a project or a customer, but just getting that support network, having your close people, your core, and getting their feedback in addition to a mentor's feedback, because it may be different. They may know you slightly better, right? Is being open to that constructive criticism, or being open to just, opening up about the company.
Yeah, I mean, the more people that you can surround yourself with that don't tell you what you want to hear,
Yes.
the better.
Yes.
The more people that can challenge you, the more people that can actually give you a new and fresh perspective is invaluable, right? And yeah, your support network, look, I mean, it can be anybody from the people closest to you in terms of family and relationships to, and this one's really out there, but dead entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I'll say that again, dead entrepreneurs. We're talking about Henry Ford.
Yes.
For example, or really motivational, extremely motivational people. I don't know if you like flying, Amelia Earhart, right?
Yeah.
And surrounding yourself with people that you can talk to face to face, right? Your family, your close relationships, inspirational people. Have an imaginary board of advisors meeting. This is what a founder told me too. He said, surround yourself with your entrepreneurial heroes.
Yeah.
In your mind, right? You could be meditating and doing this. You could be thinking to yourself, journaling, and ask each one of them, what would they do? What would Henry Ford do in this situation? Or what would Steve Jobs do in this situation? And or ask them directly, and you can kind of imagine what successful people do. Mm-hmm. And there's one more point I want to make on that too, is for entrepreneurs specifically, having conversations with days or 0 to 1 founders is so important. I think that every single conversation I've had with a 0 to 1 founder, I can confidently say I took something from it. Yeah. And it benefited me. And I can refer back to it in my head. Mm-hmm. Because not only is there empathy for what you're going through, entrepreneurship is a long and confusing road, full of ups and downs, full of disillusionment, and the highs can be high, the lows can be low, but keeping a strong baseline and keeping a strong centered self is very important. But you can grab that from founders, right? And the more networking events for founders that you can go out to, the more that you can touch base with them, the more that you can do stuff like this, the more it's going to benefit you. And we can call that peer mentorship. Yeah. Right? Co-learning, peer mentorship. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
Well, even it relates back to when you and I had our first conversation over the phone, when we came up with the idea to come together and discuss our platforms. I feel like we both took away a lot from that conversation, experienced a lot of the same challenges, right? And speaking to fellow entrepreneurs, sometimes you're so close to your product that you don't feel comfortable sharing your product. And I've never been one of those people. I'm more than happy to share my product and share my challenges and share my, successes and what worked well for me. Because I find, you could be that entrepreneur that keeps everything close to their chest, right? And I'm not going to tell anyone my trade secrets or none of my triumphs or none of this, right? But in reality, what's most important is how you execute, right? If somebody takes my same idea and executes better than me, good on them, right? I can't sit there and say, no one can use my ideas, because then I don't really believe in myself or my team. I believe that we can execute to the best of our ability. And if someone else is trying to do that, then good luck to them. Yeah. It's a free market out there. It's a competitive landscape. And I think that it's healthy. I think having competitors is healthy.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the fact that there is a competitive market pushes people to be better, to innovate, right? We wouldn't have any companies incentivized to actually boost their labor force in terms of upskilling them or paying them more, or they would innovate or buying better capital, putting more expenditure into capital, right? There'd be no incentives to do that if you're in an oligopoly or monopoly, right? And we see that within the Canadian market, right? We see companies like that exist today. So and very bold statement, I will add that if someone is going to take your idea and do it better than you, then so be it. Then you weren't supposed to do it in the first place. And it's harsh, but it's a reality. And I've had 0 to 1 founders say that as well. It's a common thread. I will say though that the importance of staying humble, being stoic, ensuring that you're treating everybody with respect, like while you're going through this process is very important as well, because you're gonna meet a lot of people that will say things about your business, about that, but having a very again I'll say stoic, calm, centered self as you're going through this entrepreneuring process is going to keep you grounded, and it's going to be beneficial for your team, for your company, for your product, and it is a highly emotional thing to be going through this. But being grounded, we'll say, is very important to this process. Yeah,
and that's actually why we started the Business Brew initiative, where we've had 2 events the last 2 months where we bring in a bunch of younger like-minded people, whether they be entrepreneurs or industry professionals, to come together in a collaborative space. We have it here in the office. We usually get between 40 and 60 attending, and we come together and we talk ideas and we talk about our challenges, talk about our businesses, and we found that those events have fostered new business, have fostered relationships, potentially some co-founders, some new hires. So a lot can come from coming together and collaborating when you're all going through something similar, right? And that collaborative piece is huge. I mean, think back to school. I mean, me personally, I used to really enjoy group presentations, right? Where we had a problem, we all had to solve it, and then we had to go out and present in front of the class. I really enjoyed coming together and hearing others' perspectives. And sometimes you get frustrated with those who weren't pulling their weight, but it taught you a lot about life, right? It's going to happen. You can't always do everything yourself. Unless you're a professional and you have your own practice and you only do your own thing. That's different. But we've both chosen the entrepreneurial road, right? We will have teams. We will have disputes, right? And I think that learning to collaborate with others is going to be your most important skill as a founder.
Yeah, I mean, you could say entrepreneurs are. Is entrepreneurship a team sport? I would say yeah.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. I would agree with that statement. I would say that the ecosystems that exist for entrepreneurs right now are all collaborative. I went through the Antler Accelerator program myself. You have things like the Next 36 in Canada, or you have Creative Destruction Lab, local innovation hubs here as well in Windsor. Y Combinator, for example, right? The mecca of startups. These are collaborative places where ideas are flowing, and people act as soundboards for each other. There's co-learning, there's co-mentorship. We're meant to be conversational. We're meant to go and share stories and share ideas. Doing something inside of a vacuum, I mean, it's doomed to fail. Building product inside of a vacuum, trying to go and do something on your own based on ego. I think that the more, there's a balance between getting out there and going to network and then, trying to get customers and build product, right? There's a balance between that. And if you can strike that, I would say if you can strike that effectively, then you can be an effective entrepreneur. Yeah.
Cool, Michael. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming. It's been a great conversation.
Thanks for having me here at Scelta, and glad to be at the headquarters of something big here. So thanks so much, David.
I wish you great success.
You too.